why are you stonkingly wealthy and I'm not? What is it that you do? How do you look at a problem? How do you look at failure? How do you interact? What do you value? What are your 5 values?
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Perfectly Mentored. I'm your host, Jason Portnoy. My next guest has worked with Sir Elton John, Elon Musk, sent people down to the wreck of the Titanic, closed down museums in Florence for private dinners, and had Andre Bocelli serenade them while they ate their pasta in front of Michelangelo's David. My next guest is Steve Sims. He's been quoted as the real-life Wizard of Oz by Forbes, Entrepreneur Magazine. He's a best-selling author with Bluefishing, The Art of Making Things Happen. He's a sought-after coach speaker of a variety of networks. I mean, one of the most connected guys and super, super smart. You're really going to enjoy this one. Take a listen. Steve, thank you so much for doing this. Welcome to the podcast. It's an honor to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
I want to talk about your journey a little bit and how you got started, at a young age, and then start to work with people like Elton John, working knowing Elon Musk, going to the wreckage of the Titanic. You've lived a crazy life, and you're far from stopping to live that crazy life, God willing. But I want to know, your journey's just been so crazy. I'd love to get some background on it.
I don't think it is. I don't want to, bother anyone, but I think my life is just the same as every other entrepreneur. I started off by being pissed off. You see, every single entrepreneur out there starts that journey by being aggravated about something. Why does that happen? Elon Musk invented PayPal because he didn't like the way that it was so hard to wire money through banks, and it took 4 days. He started with an aggravation, and then he found a formula and a structure for it. For me, in the 80s, I didn't have social platforms. So I didn't have Instagram to tell me how inadequate my life was, but I still knew that there was something missing. And as a kid that left school at 15, working on a building site with my dad, with my uncle, with my cousins, with my granddad, I would be, is this it? Surely there's got to be something else. Now, the only way we got to see other life was through magazines that I couldn't afford, or through movies like James Bond or something like that. That was the only time I knew this fantastical place called Monaco existed, because it was always on a James Bond movie. And I was like, how do they have this? How do they do this? So I did what all entrepreneurs do. You jump out of a regular job, even though it was a shitty job, working on a building site, you jump out of the frying pan into a volcano. You don't think, you just do. And I took up 1,000,001 jobs that I was ill-qualified, inadequate to do. I got fired more times than you can think. And I just went on a journey to try and become this better person without knowing what that was. And when we're young, we don't really know what we're going for. We just know we're going. And I ended up, I realized at a very early age, as a biker, and I'm still a biker, I don't have a car. I have a collection of motorcycles here in LA, and I'm always turning up on a motorcycle. But as a young lad, I would turn up at a bar, with my shitty motorcycle, got my, 10-year-old secondhand crash helmet in my hand. And I'd be in this pub with a bunch of broke-ass bikers. And I'm realizing, that's me. I am the room that I am in. So I've got to change my room. That's the solution. I've got to be in a room full of successful, passionate people. Don't know what that room looks like. Don't know what they look like, but I got to find it. So I ended up trying to go for loads of jobs. There was this ridiculous job of trainee stockbroker in Hong Kong that I wrote a resume that J.K. Rowling would have respected. In my resume, I actually physically wrote down that I was related to royalty. Okay. It was such bullshit and bollocks that I expected someone to get it, to laugh at it, because it was so apparently, bad, that they would go, well, he's funny. He took a shot. Let's give it a go. But the funny thing is, no one ever read the resume. They were taking like 60 people over to train them in Hong Kong. So I got accepted. I landed on the Saturday, got drunk with them because I was qualified with that. On the Sunday, got drunk with them again, did orientation on the Monday, and I was fired on the Tuesday. So I'm now in Hong Kong little bit of money. They gave me the accommodation that I was sharing with other guys for like, I think it was like a month or two. But those guys thought I was a fraud. So I'd have to stay out all night and then go back to the apartment and sleep all day. It's very hard to get a job when, you know, your day's work is ass backwards. I ended up getting a job on a door because, you know, I'm big and ugly, and my job description was to slap people, you know, and break up fights. And I could do that, you know, but I really thought this is the low point of my life. The funny thing was, the club that I was working on had velvet rope areas. So it had people in there with money. So I got to see how people with money interacted and acted with each other, and how people pretending to have money interacted and reacted to each other. And I started becoming a real student of psychology and body language, and I really enjoyed it. And then I started, because I was a doorman and I was quite good at it, because I was actually good at not having a fight. I could talk people down really, really well. And so I got to become a doorman at really good clubs. So I started speaking to rich people going, hey, there's a club opening up on Thursday. It's the grand opening. I may be able to get you in. Would that be of interest? $200 each. And I started getting people. And then what I started doing was closing clubs down and throwing my own parties, only ever inviting rich people because I only wanted to hang around with rich people. Again, remember, I wanted to change the room I was in. So I started throwing like little back room parties, and then they got bigger. Then I started taking over yachts and mansions and penthouses, and it grew. And over 25 years, I went from throwing backroom parties in bars, you know, private lockdowns, to working for companies like the Grammys, Sir Elton John's Oscar party, the Kentucky Derby, New York Fashion Week, Cartier, Piaget, Ferrari. It literally exploded. And along the way, again, only ever focusing on affluent people, people will be like, oh, I need to get a Hermes bag, but there's a wait list. I'll be like, what do you need? Oh, I want to get this Ferrari, but there's a wait list. What do you need? Oh, I want to do a drum lesson with Guns N' Roses. Hey, I'd love to go down to the Titanic. I see James Cameron, so I'd love to go up into space. I've had people ask me to get them married in the Vatican by the Pope. I've had them, they want drum lessons with Guns N' Roses. I want to be on stage, literally picked up on stage and sing live on stage in a concert. I've done all of those things to the point that Forbes called me the real life Wizard of Oz, and the Make-A-Wish Foundation for people with really big checkbooks. So I just decided that I wanted to do this, not because I like people, but I wanted to use that occupation, if you can call it, to be able to use that as my Trojan horse, because I wanted to be sitting in front of a billionaire and I wanted to ask him this question: why are you stonkingly wealthy and I'm not? You know, what is it that you do? How do you look at a problem? How do you look at failure? How do you interact? What do you value? What are your 5 values? I wanted to have those conversations. If it meant that I needed to get you introduced to Elon Musk or Sir Elton John, hey, I'll do that, because if I've got your attention, I've got your conversation. And I did that for, you know, 20, 25, 28 years. And then 3 years ago, wrote a book, Bluefishing: The Art of Making Things Happen, because I was stunned at how people usually screw up because they try to be smart about things. They don't focus on the impact. They want to launch a company, and what's the first thing they do? Oh, I need a CRM. Oh, I need a pretty website. Oh, I need to spend 120 grand on branding. You don't need any of that. You first of all need to identify, are you the solution to someone's problem, and who has that problem? That's how you start a business. And that's it. That's the not so short version of how I got to where I am.
No, I love it. And I have so many follow-up questions. So the first one that comes to my mind right now is, when you're in the clubs watching, you know, the people who have money act versus the people who don't have money act. I'd love for you to elaborate on that. What were some of the major differences you saw?
Well, let's start on the door. I used to play a game. Is it wearing you or are you wearing it? Literally, I would have, you know, my whole education's come from quips, okay? You'd see a guy pull up in a car. Let's say, for argument's sake, it's a Porsche, Maserati, Ferrari, who cares? Pulls up in a beautiful car, gets out, okay? Gets his jacket out of the back, okay? Does he put his jacket on while talking to the valet guy slip him a couple of bucks, and then come straight to the meatheads on the door to let him in the club? Or does he do the slow motion thing, looking around to the crowd, making sure everyone's making sure that they're watching him? You know, did you buy that car to impress me? Or did you buy that car because you wanted to? And have you ever noticed the guy that buys the expensive watch, on that sleeve, the jack is pulled up? Have you ever seen that? You know, and I would turn around to people and I would say to them, "Oh, I love your watch," and then they would go, "Yeah, it's 40 grand. It's a limited edition Audemars Piguet." They hit me with the price tag. Gives a shit, you know. But then you turn around and someone and go, "Oh, I love your watch," and they went, "Yeah, you know, my dad always wanted one of these, and we could never really afford it. You know, it just reminds me of my dad." You know, that they've bought that watch for them, you know, or they're kind of like, "Yeah, I went to a show and I saw what went into these things," you know, and I was like, "Bloody hell, these are, you have no idea what's going." Those are the people that buy those items for them. But there are far too many people, and again, it's that middle management mentality, that buy the watch, that buy the car, that buy the suit to impress you. And psychologically, you could see it in their body language, how long it takes them to actually put the jacket on, how high they actually roll up, not only their shirt sleeve, but their jacket as well, just so that you see the stonkingly diamond embezzled watch that they're wearing.
What about in terms of just mindset, like the people or how they interact with people, the people who are the wannabes and the true wealthy?
Yes. So there's three things. There's three things that I noticed in working with billionaires. And bearing in mind, we had, at the peak of my concierge firm, we had 93 billionaires as clients. Okay. You don't need to worry about your mortgage payment when you've got two of those. So, you know, we had quite a few. And we used to love looking at the, you know, for different countries, like the 100 richest families. Every year there's these reports that come out with the richest people in America and the richest people in Russia. We used to love going through going, yep. You know, and it used to be funny. What used to make me really laugh was the people that were not on that list that were actually richer than most of the people on the list. Those were the people I thought were very smart. But I noticed three things in working with billionaires. The first thing is they lean into failure. A successful mentality is the one that analyzes where things went wrong so they don't repeat that mistake. You get the wantrepreneur, and let's be blunt, the word entrepreneur is very sexy at the moment, isn't it? You know, it's kind of, oh, I came from a period in the 80s where if you were called an entrepreneur or a hustler, it was because you couldn't get a real job and you were probably selling, you know, stolen audios in the back of your car. It was a derogatory thing. I remember getting the cane at school. I don't know what I'd done. I'd obviously not paid attention. But my headmaster said, "Sims, you're nothing more than a hustler." And I remember at the time going, how is that a bad thing? Now, if someone walked into your company tomorrow and said, "Boy, I'm the best hustler you'll ever meet," bingo, great resume, I'll start you tomorrow. You know, it's amazing how those things have changed. But the successful people, they fail at something and they lean in. They go, how did that go wrong? Where did that trip me up? You know, Elon Musk analyzes every time when something goes wrong so it doesn't happen again. The wantrepreneur is the one that leans back and goes, "Oh my God, I've just lost 5 grand. Oh no, throw the pity party. Woe is me. My life is over. I'm never doing that again." So the successful mindset leans in. The second thing is they value people. They look at people. They want to connect with people. They look for substance. They don't want to showboat. They look for substance. You know, how can you help me? You know, and the third thing is time. You know, they don't want to put up with what you watched on Netflix. What are you doing that makes an impact to you or people that you serve? So those are the three things that I notice with people. And even in a club, you know, they want to mingle with people that they're not wasting time with. That's why me, and it was lucky, because I am shit at the water cooler chit chat. I don't care what you watched on Netflix. I don't care what you ate for dinner last night. So I'll turn up and I go, "Hey, if you're looking at doing this, I can make it happen. It'll be $2,000. That was it. There was no warm and fuzzy about me. And you've met me for 10 minutes. You can see I'm not a warm and fuzzy person. But they liked that they knew exactly what they were getting. And there was incredible clarity on why I was in front of them. If you want this, I can get it for you. If you want to do this, I'll make it happen. And so that's what they like. They like clarity. They look for solutions. They don't want to be sold. So there's a number of things that I noticed within working with the affluent.
Love it. And then one of the last things I take from your journey that you said was super important is, if you're unhappy with where you are, you could change the room, right? And that was super important to you. So what's your advice for people on changing the room? It sounds a lot easier, right? Or is it something that's, just as easy as it is said?
Well, how old are you?
I'll be 40 in a couple of months, in a few months.
So the pair of us have lived without Facebook and Instagram telling us how pathetic we are. Okay, because there's always someone there. I did a posting on my Facebook page the other day because there's a company in LA now that they've got half a fuselage in a studio that you can rent for photo shoots, so that you can pretend to your buddies that you're actually on a freaking plane, private plane. So we've got all of this fake life going on. And we came from a period where we didn't know that kind of thing. In those days, when you wanted to change the room, you looked for like YPO, you looked for EO, you looked for like events, you looked for those kind of things. Now, you can do it as simply as joining a Facebook group. You can look at doing it by simply joining Clubhouse. The first thing you've got to do is know and recognize you're in the wrong room. When you turn around to your mates and you go, do you know, I don't like what I'm doing. I'm going to launch a company. When you get a few of your buddies going, oh, you're going to lose everything, man. You're useless. When you get those conversations, you've got to realize these people aren't your friends. These people don't want you to succeed, because when you do, it will expose how inadequate they are. They don't want you. I have friends from my past that hate me now because of where I am and what I do. It's a shame, but it is what it is. They didn't want to take a chance. I took a chance. And let's be honest, all entrepreneurs, we've been sued, we've been ripped off, we've been laughed at. We've gone broke, we've gone rich, we've gone broke again, we've gone broke further. It's the up and down of an entrepreneur's life. We took those risks, okay? And a lot of these other people didn't. So I'm a great believer that you've got to, first of all, make the realization that you're in the wrong room. If you want better for you, you've got to make sure it's for you and your family. And it can be as simple as just joining a Facebook group. I've got a Facebook group. It's free of charge, so there's no money in it. An Entrepreneur's Advantage with Steve Sims. I just go in there and we go, hey, what's the best camera we should do? What lighting do you use? What software do you use? What do you think about doing a self-published book versus getting a publisher? We throw questions in there, and those people are able to ask questions in the right room. And Clubhouse, where we first met, there are conversations going on in there. Make sure you change the room, and that can be as easy as just joining the right LinkedIn, Facebook, or Clubhouse page.
Yeah, I find it interesting because I think there's with nowadays, with so much opportunity out there, like you said, to change the room, there's a lot of people who are who don't know if they're in the wrong room or not. Meaning, there's so many gurus out there. There's so many people trying to teach you how to change the room, for lack of better words, and man, they don't even have their shit figured out. So, I mean, if you're going to change the room on social media, what are the top ways to realize you're in the wrong room?
Do you know, I actually did a posting the other day. I post things usually 5 minutes before I've thought about it. And sometimes the repercussions can, come a little bit fast and heavy. I got an email in the morning by a guy that I knew because he'd seen me speaking at an event. Okay. And, the guy was in an industry. He wasn't a speaker, wasn't an author, but he started this course on how to get millionaire clients and gain credibility. And I thought to myself, hang on a minute, there's a guy selling a course about getting credibility and millionaire clients when he has neither. And I started doing a little bit of research on this into the furu market, the fake gurus. So many gurus are out there going, hey, come and join my course and I'll tell you how you can be number one and you can help get billionaire clients. You can be a top influencer on YouTube, when they don't have any of that. So the first thing you've got to do is look at the substance and be prepared to challenge it. You know, why are you in a position that you think you can teach me? If it's $49 for a course, send the bloody email and go, hey, you want me to spend $49 because you can answer my problems? Please let me know why you feel as though you're in a position of strength to be able to do that. At the moment, we are rife, chock-a-block, saturated with people leaning up against cars they don't own, doing the selfie pictures on jets that are only half a fuselage in a studio in Burbank, talking all the bullshit. How many times do you see that? Oh, so excited. I woke up this morning and I made 6 figures before I had my first crap. You know, how many times do we see all of that? You know, I scale businesses to $1 billion. You know, there's way too much of that out there. Okay. So you've got to, first of all, identify, do they have the substance for you? Now, you want cheerleaders in your world. You want more challengers. Now, me and you, we know good people. You know, I will come up with a concept and I will send it out to some of my closest people. And they will contact me and they're going, so why do you think you're able to succeed at this? Now, they're not being negative. They're asking me to validate it. And I'm like, well, you know, I go, okay, is this the best use of your energy? You know, is this the best use of your time? Is the juice worth the squeeze? And they're challenging me to make sure. The amount of times I've gone, do you know it's not? Thank you very much for saving 6 months of my life. You need those challenges. You've got to look, and this, I do something called a chug test. You've got to look at your entire world. And you can do this on a piece of paper. Just start writing names down. You know, it could be your brother-in-law, it could be your accountant, it could be your sales team, it could be your boss. And ask yourself, if you were walking down the street and you saw that person on the other side of the street, would you cross the road to get in front of them because they illuminate your life, they create impact, they challenge you? Or would you look in the window and pretend as though you're really interested in whatever that shop was selling and watch that reflection go by so then you can turn around and get on your day? If it's the latter, put a cross through them and get them out of your life. It's tough, but cancer can't go away by sweet talking or a couple of tablets. And you ain't going to grow by having those crabs and inadequate people around in your life. It's a tough thing, but once you start doing it, you'll start valuing relationships greater than you do now, which was number 3 on the list of how billionaires live.
So, I mean, one of the most important things you said there is being able to take, I guess, criticism or being challenged. For some of the listeners listening right now, that could trigger a lot of defense mechanisms in people, right? A lot of people don't like being challenged. A lot of people don't like criticism. How do you, teach people, or how do you deal with criticism and not take things personally?
I do take it personally. That's straight away. But taking it personally is a passion thing, and it's not necessarily detrimental. If I'm talking, and we were talking about my buddy, our buddy Dan Fleischman, a few moments ago. You know, if I'm talking to Dan Fleischman and go, hey, I'm going to do this social campaign, and he goes, well, is that really the best way to do it? Dan Fleischman is probably one of the best people in the planet to get advice from on any kind of social campaign. You know, I may be upset because I'd spent 3 months working on this brilliant program that Dan's just looked at and gone, you really think that's the best use of your money and time, Steve? And I'd be like, well, should I tweak it? And then he would go, well, have you thought about doing this? Have you thought about? He's just saved me time. The one thing that we can't get, no matter how wealthy we are, is that time back. But with good surroundings, you can save time going forward. You can save the next 6 months of your life. And look at COVID. How many people had weak businesses going into COVID? The COVID has literally just saved them the next 5 years of their life by putting it out of business. Okay? Empathetic to the people that have lost jobs, and definitely to the people that have lost family members. But if your business got impacted, you've just got a lesson. You just got an education. If it was weak going in and it crumbled, you just saved 5 years of your life. You just got educated super duper fast. Personally, I'm grateful for that, because at the ripe old age of 55, I don't have 7 years to work out whether or not this is a good idea. I have 7 days. So take it personally. But again, ask yourself the question, the person that's giving me that advice, are they in a position to give me that advice? And if they are in that position, oh, hail, thank you. I'm taking it on the chin and I appreciate it.
Then you have the flip side, though, right? Now you have the flip side on social media of the rah-rah motivational people who post the motivational quotes and all the motivational fluff out there. I know that's definitely not what you do and how you operate. What's your take on the self-help coaching world?
So a lot of people are doing, they're out fishing and they're trying to cast a wide net. And they always say you can attract more bees with honey. Okay. So they're out there trying to give low effort, but with high expectations. You can do this. If you just had 3 things, you could be great. They're trying to grab people. Now, it's funny. They go out there. I've often done it. I go out to an audience and I go, I look at this audience and you could be absolutely great. Not all of you, but some of you, The bottom line of it is, who are you trying to attract and why? If you've got a $12.99 course, then yeah, you don't want to piss off anyone. You want to grab as wide a net as possible because let's be blunt, your mortgage is based on that $12.99 course, all right? You're trying to fish for as many people as you can. So you're going to cast the net wide and far with loads of niceties. But if you're trying to actually impact and create change and get people uncomfortable, well, that's nasty. When you want people to do things, how many times have you walked into a client and the client's going, yeah, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, and I'm doing this, and you're going, great, you're doing that and that and that, wrong. And they sit there and the smart ones go, well, okay, because you're going to quickly reply with, now we're going to correct it. The best thing about seeing someone doing something wrong is it's a quick fix. The worst ones is when all of that wrongdoing is being hidden. And you've got to delve into it to go, oh my God, you're putting water in the gas tank. That's why the car's not moving. You don't want to have to discover these things. You love to see a mistake very clear as day. So I'm a great believer that you've got to get out and look, first of all, again, why are they being so nice? If they tell you they can make you a millionaire in a week, then can they? Are they millionaires? Isn't it funny how many gurus out there are not the millionaires that they're telling you they can make you by buying that course? It's hysterical. I saw this one thing. I don't live with a lot of regret. In fact, I live with none apart from probably this moment. I told you already, I ride around on motorcycles. I was in Beverly Hills for a meeting and the valet boys never take your freaking bike. So they always make you park your bike down in the car park, like on the 3rd floor. And in the distance was this lime green, and I couldn't make it out. I don't know if it was a McLaren or a Lamborghini, a beautiful car from one of the residents. So this was obviously in the long stay car park area of this place. And my bike was probably about 200 yards, something like that from it. So I could see the car, and I saw it there when I parked the bike. When I came back, I was walking towards the bike, and I could hear the echo and the kind of, yeah, what, yeah, and all this kind of chanting. As I walked towards my bike, over in the corner, this fancy sports car now had a guy with a camera and a light module above it, and these 2 guys leaning against this car, going, yeah, and you want this? I got 4 of these now, and they're doing that best motivational video leaning up against his car in a car park, and they're going through. And I thought to myself, well, do what you want to do, guys. If it works for you, God bless you, go forth. This is where I regretted I never had the camera. All of a sudden, I heard these following words: "Get the fuck off my car!" And this big Armenian was legging it through this car park with kill in his eyes. And these guys jumped off of this car, shot through the stairwell, and went running like crazy as this guy went barging through this stairwell to catch him. It wasn't even their car, and they were doing a video on it. That moment, to say it would have gone viral, I think I would have peed myself if I saw it every time. But that's what we're seeing in the world now. So start asking questions. If you say you can do this for me, why? Why should I listen to you? Why are you telling me you can do this? What's your credibility? What's your substance? Have you made $1 million last week? Show me the tab. You know, that's ask people questions.
Love it. Yeah. I mean, you wrote a book, Bluefish, the art of making things happen, right? So you're known for helping people make things happen. But before I get your advice on, the top ways to make things happen, what do you think stands in the way the most from people actually achieving anything?
Them. Very easy. You say to someone, hey, what would you like to do if you could do anything? They'll turn around, they'll go, oh, I'd love to play piano with Sir Elton John. And then they will turn around and go, but I can't play piano. And oh, Elton John doesn't know me. And I wouldn't even know the first way to go about it. They'll spend 1 second telling you what they want and then 10 minutes why it can't be done. As human beings, we don't want to reveal to it. If I said to you, hey, if you got all the money in the planet, what would you do? Your first response may be, oh, I'll get a hot tub and I'll get all the Victoria's Secrets in there for the weekend and all my mates and we'll all buy matching color Ferraris. And I'll be like, oh, great. But in 6 months' time, and you've still got that money, what would you do then? And when you start drilling it down, it'd be things like, well, my school never had a playfield. I'd like to give my school a playfield. Actually, my kids' soccer team, well underfunded. I'd like to fund that. Yeah, we don't have a computer lab at our school. I'm going to buy every kid a computer. Wi-Fi in my area, at the bottom of my street, there are people without Wi-Fi. I'm going to give everyone free Wi-Fi. People are scared of actually revealing what they really want to do. They also dream small. Isn't it funny? You dream at night and you're naked on a flying carpet going through Manhattan, okay? And you wake up in the morning and you go, well, I could never do that. I could never do that. That's a silly dream. And then when someone says, what's your dream? Well, I'd like to go for a private tour through, you can create anything.
Is that your what you call going for stupid?
I go for stupid. Like I had a client, I'll give you an exact story. I had a client that said to me that he needed a meal in Florence, a dinner, okay? There was a phenomenal dining experience because he wanted to show his future mother-in-law and father-in-law just how powerful he was, okay? And so what I did, I could have gone to like the Italian version of Open Table, got a good restaurant, and then got the chef to come out and gone, oh, it's a pleasure for you to be here. I've done this. And that would have been good. That would have been really good. It would have showed how connected he was. I didn't do that. I went for the ridiculous. I went for what could be laughable. I actually took over the Accademia di Galleria, which is the museum in Florence that houses Michelangelo's David, the most famous statue in the planet, way more famous than the Statue of Liberty, okay? I took over an entire museum, set up a table of 6 at the feet of this, had a top chef serve them food, and then halfway through their pasta, I had Andrea Bocelli come in and serenade them. I went for stupid. How ridiculous can I make it? Because as Elon Musk said, they laugh at you a few seconds before they applaud. Now, had I not got the museum, I could have gone for another place. I could have gone for another museum. I could have gone for a penthouse. I could have gone for a Tuscan mansion. Just because you don't get that big moonshot, you're still going to grab the stars as you come down. And I failed many, many times, but grabbed those stars and people have gone, whoa, I gave you this instruction and you did this? That's because I dared to go for stupid. I dared to go for the ridiculous. And that's what people need to be doing today. People go for what they think is achievable. Well, if you've never gone on the Titanic and you've never hung out with Guns N' Roses and you've never made $1 million and you've never gone around a racetrack on a Ferrari, how do you know that's achievable?
But do you think it's and I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just curious to hear your thoughts. Do you think it's people don't go that for stupid because they fear failure, so they set the bar low for them to climb over it, versus if they set the bar high, Grant Cardone, something he talks a lot about is set the bar high and then set your actions even higher to achieve it, right? Do you think people just sit there and they play it safe with their goals just out of fear of failure?
It's not the fear of failure, it's the fear of laughter. Okay. People don't want to establish a goal. We're in a mentality now where the videos that go viral are people falling over, walking into walls, getting hit by something. I remember there was a girl, I live in LA, and I was at a shopping mall in Glendale, and there was a woman in front of me, and I'm going to be rude, so I apologize. She was one of the largest women I'd ever seen in my life. And she pissed me off. The reason she pissed me off is she'd just come out of Target. It'll be obvious how I know that. For some reason, she had her arms out to the side of her, and she was about a 300-pound girl. She's now got her arms out to the side of her with all of these Target carrier bags on them. Okay. I was actually quite impressed at how she managed, to keep those bags up. But what she was doing was she was stopping anyone from getting around her. Okay. And she was walking slowly. In front of me were a couple of guys, and then in front of her, no one could get past her. Okay. So she was starting to kind of slow people up. The poor woman tripped. And because she had her arms out to the side of her, she went straight down on her face. It was the most horrific slap I'd ever heard in my life. Now, the two guys tried to get her. Thankfully, they never saved that. And I know it sounds funny to say, they weren't able to catch her because, quite simply, they may have hurt themselves by trying to, grab this woman going down, or maybe made it even worse. But they grabbed her, they sat her up, her side of her face was all red where she had hurt. So she was disorientated. The bags and everything were all over the place. I got there as well. And she sat there with her legs splayed out, her dress, she was a mess. And what we did was we started grabbing all of her bags and putting them between her legs so she had them, okay? And as we're bringing everything to her, we're waiting because one of the police saw this and was calling for a medic. As we're waiting for the medic to come up, she starts to come around a bit. And she was badly red. I don't know if she damaged herself, but I would be stunned if she didn't. But all of a sudden, she starts looking around everywhere. She sat on the floor. She's got me, my wife, and these other two guys, and now a crowd of people around her, and all of us shopping between her legs. And I said to her, I said, no, don't worry. All your bags are here, but is anything missing? Because we had a handbag there. We had all of her Target shopping bags. And she looked around and she said, no, I don't care. She went, I just want to make sure no one was videoing that. The girl, I guarantee you, went to the hospital. I would be stunned if she didn't break, crack, fracture something. And all that she was cared about was someone videoing it and posting and having people laugh at it. We're in a laughter society today. America's Funniest Videos. There are programs made out of people falling over. How many times do we like to see someone on the phone walking into a wall because they weren't paying attention, or, falling over, and we laugh, okay? People aren't afraid to actually tell you their goals now because of failure. They're actually fighting of telling you their goals in case they'll be laughed at.
Interesting. So, what are the top tips to getting over that, I guess? I mean, how does someone, get over that?
Well, you first of all, again, got to ask yourself, does the person that's laughing at you matter? Does it matter? I want to listen to intelligent people that I respect. And if they say something to me, I want to respect that decision. So stop trying to please everyone and start pleasing yourself. Go for stupid. Raise your goal of expectations. And then as soon as you hit it, hey, that's my new benchmark of normal, and then go up from there. You've got to understand that around your world, 90% of the people are inadequate to be better than they are. For fear, for lifestyle, for the culture they've been bred up on. You're different. You're not meant to fit in. For anyone that's still listening to this podcast now, you're not meant to be liked and to fit in to every room you're in. You're meant to dominate, control, and no one ever dominated by following someone else. You are meant to stand out. And that's what you got to focus on. Increase the people you're around with, increase your goals, go for stupid, have goals that are laughable, and be proud to announce and go for them. And when you fail, lean into that failure and go, well, where did that go wrong? We just saw the rocket that's going to take people up to Mars from Elon Musk. We just saw it explode a couple of days ago, didn't we? Do you think Elon Musk is sitting at home drinking whiskey going, shit, I've just lost $20 million. My life's over. Oh my God. No, guarantee you the second that fused, before it exploded, the second something went wrong on a screen, him and all of his people, and I know because I've been there, all leant into the screens to go, where did it go wrong? Where did that go wrong? And that's what the successful people do.
It's also impressive that, something I talk a lot about is people just don't ask for the things that they want, right? Like everyone asks me, how'd you get this person on the podcast? How'd you get this client? I asked. It's just, there's so many easy solutions that can be done that people are afraid to do.
Yeah, we don't ask enough. It actually caught me. I know we've only got about 10 minutes left on this podcast before I've got to bail, but when I got to Florence and I had that academia and it was early in the evening and Andrea Bocelli was, warbling and the piano was getting set up, I was stunned. And I'm a little kid. I still get stunned at the rooms that I'm in and the conversations I'm having. And I remember looking at all of this going, my God, I've shut down an entire museum in a foreign country and I've got Andrea Bocelli just waiting to, serenade 6 people in a museum. And I remember talking to one of the guys that had helped me put it together. And I said to him, how come we actually pulled this off? And he turned around to me quite bluntly and just went, well, you asked. And he was stunned that I was asking him. And I was like, yeah. And that's how it's been. And I've actually gone back to a lot of people and I've gone, how did I get my client on your TV show? How did I get my client in your movie? How come you brought that person up? And he turned around and said, well, stupid question, Steve. For a start, you asked, you've got to make sure there's some value in it for them, but you've got to start with the ask. And if you don't ask, you don't get. Simple.
We'll wrap up with this. Something that I love that you said recently was be an experience and not a transaction. I would love to get you to elaborate on that for the listeners.
We're in a transaction society, especially because of COVID. Places like Domino's, McDonald's, especially Amazon, it's all transaction based. If you don't think it's transaction based and you're working up a relationship with Amazon, phone them up tomorrow and go, hey, I think I'm going to change my toilet roll. What brand should I get? You'll have no conversation. There's no phone number. You've got Alexa, you've got Siri. All of these places are transaction based. We're moving into an AI world. You've got to make sure you do everything that Amazon does and everything it doesn't, which is create, disrupt, and just give someone a trigger. Give them an emotion. If they want a yellow cake, give them a yellow cake, but then give them some red ones as well. Give people more than what they asked for and raise the bar. Give them an experience. Give them a trigger. So the next time they want something, they're going to turn around and go, I'm going with Steve because I only asked for a dinner experience in Florence. Shit, he closed down the entire museum. Now that's an extreme because, hey, that's how I live my life. But when I coach people, I'm going to do this. Give them more. Have them challenged more. Get them uncomfortable more. Give people more than what they asked. Give them what they dream, desire, and lust for.
Love it. For the listeners who want to reach out to you and they want to learn more, how can they find you?
I have an online inner circle called Sims Distillery where I do a lot of AMAs with my expert friends. You can join an Entrepreneur's Advantage with Steve Sims. You can find all of these things at Steve D. Sims, only one M, stevedsims.com or Steve D. Sims anywhere, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. I post a lot on there. But if you're easily offended, forget all of that.
I'll make sure to link in the show notes. Steve, thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate you.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.